So this video review is over the Synology 1019 Plus. Now I'm really excited about this review just because this is a network attached storage. It runs on a Linux distro. It's actually Synology's own distro spin, so it's not Debian based or Arch based or any of that. It's its own Linux based or Linux GNU based distribution. So important to note, but it does mean we can SSH into it, do a lot of things from terminal, which I'm not going to actually cover in this video. For this video, we're doing just the basic review. And I'm going to go ahead and start the unboxing over here, mainly because I don't like unboxing videos. It takes too much of the time to explain all that, and you don't really get anything from an unboxing, in my opinion. So, pretty cool stuff. But at the same token, I want to jump right in and kind of get into the meat and potatoes. Now, I am hooking this up to a 1 gigabit switch. Everything's going to be there. There's going to be 2 network connections coming into this, both gigabit into the actual same switch. So pretty powerful as far as what you get. This particular model can go up to 10 gigabits. So if you're doing like a small business and hosting virtual machines, I'd highly recommend getting like the 10 gigabit and doing all your virtual machines through that on probably its own separate storage area network and not the rest of your traffic on the network. So with all that, I'm going to go ahead and hook all this up, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into this video because out of the gate, the thing I love the most about Synology is it's for everybody. Meaning someone that is a technology noob could just hook this thing up, power it on, and then just go to their web browser and hit the thing. And that's awesome. And it's so simplistic that they could actually get around and set up like a Plex media server is probably one of the biggest uses for home use. And then for small business, you have just simple file storage. We can do a lot of really cool stuff. Now, anybody that knows and follows the channel, I actually use a free and open source box right now that is just kind of my own design. It's a FreeNAS box, and we're going to go ahead and do some replication between it and the Synology box. I'm going to take all of its data and put it over onto our Synology box we're hooking up today. And that's going to be about 3 terabytes of storage. So we're going to get to see transfer rates. We're going to get to see a whole bunch of stuff. But with all that said, let's get into this review. I am super pumped because I absolutely love Synology as a company, and I've used them a lot in the past, so I know it's a good product. Okay, so I just got everything hooked up, just plugged in the network cables, powered it on after throwing some fresh hard drives in it, and literally have done nothing else. So as far as this process, very simple. Everything came locked. You just turn that key, pop out the drives, put in new ones, and then turn it on. Now, finding the Synology box can somewhat be a different experience depending on the person. So I'm going to go through all the different experiences you might experience when doing the Synology box or actually powering it up for the first time. So you power it up. It usually takes about a couple minutes, and then you'll hear a beep, and that means you can discover that specific box. Now, obviously, hardwired is what you need. I went ahead and plugged this in, so make sure you put it near your router and plug it directly in using your Ethernet cable. Now let's go ahead and find our actual Synology box. If we go up here, we can install it directly on our phone, which is fine. I'm not going to actually demonstrate that today because you can install it, just hit search, and it just says, hey, here it is. Would you like to manage it? And then if you go ahead and it actually tells you the IP as well, so you could actually come in and directly type it in. It also has what's called the Synology Web Assistant, which is really good. So you could go find.synology.com, hit search. When I did this, it did not find it. It could be that I'm just using Arch Linux and I'm using a different version of the web browser, Chromium, which I think is a pretty obscure case. So that's okay. But we can also click here and download the Synology Assistant. Now, first thing people are asking, does it have Linux support? Yes, it does. It has Windows, Mac, and Linux right out of the box for the Assistant. However, it only comes with a Debian package, which again is okay because Arch Linux has the AUR. So if we go into the AUR, we have it here. So between this, we have literally 4 or 5 different ways to find this. Let's go ahead and install the Synology Assistant here. First, I'm just checking to make sure it was updated. This one was last updated in 2018, so it's a little out of date, but we should still be able to use it. So we're going to just grab the Synology Assistance from the RAUR. We'll copy that, pull up our terminal, and then just simply paste this in here. Okay, now that we have our package installed, whether you did it through the just downloading the DEB installing or doing it through the AUR, or if you're on Windows, just doing the executable, that is fine as well. We're going to close out of this and launch it. So we'll go ahead and type Synology Assistant. We'll agree to terms. And what this does is it scans your entire network. I hooked up both NIC cards, and as you see, those are the two IPs. Now, you can do firmware updates and other stuff through here. However, I'm going to just go ahead and go to the browser now that we know the IP address and directly type this in. So those are all the different methods you can use to find your Synology box. It's amazing. And honestly, there's even more ways to find it. You could do a full scan of your network and pick out the manufacturer that says Synology. So that would also work. So with that, it's a 171 is what we need. Let's go ahead and type this in, 168.69.171. And this is the first screen you're presented with when you first boot it up. So we'll name this Synology, and the username, we'll call this Titus. And then we'll just pick a nice password and hit next. So here is like the update and maintenance. You can automatically update your thing saying, hey, follow this schedule and update the system at will, or you can say, hey, notify me, and then manually do it. Personally, I'm going to go ahead and just say notify me, and I'll manually do it. I like to have control over that. Run smart tests and check health periodically. Definitely leave this on. And then enable bad sector warning for drives, bad sectors 50. I would leave both these at default. With that, you can actually set up a Synology account. This is really nice for those that want to just go ahead and remote in using Synology's servers. However, for this, I'm not going to actually do this. I'm going to just skip this step. And it says if you skip this, you have to set up port forwarding to remotely access through the internet. So me being a system admin, I obviously don't have any issue with port forwarding, so I don't really care. However, if you don't know and you don't know much about port forwarding, it's nice they have this newbie way of accessing your Synology box pretty much anywhere in the world. And then you can say share Synology device location to allow me to find it through find.synology.com. You noticed earlier it wasn't able to find it, so I imagine we could actually go ahead and say, hey, go to find.synology and actually do it. So if you look here, let's go through some of the tips. Here's the menu, actual applications, control panel, and we can kind of see everything. We'll go ahead and close out the help, and then it just kind of shows you the system health, which is nice, and then your system uptime as well. I would also add storage to this, and just kind of let's expand this just a hair. So I like to add about 4 panels. Recent logs kind of shows me what's the actual box doing, what was the last commands run. Storage will show you storage health of your storage volume. We haven't set it up yet. And then we have system health right here and resource models. So the first thing we want to do with these fresh hard drives is set up a storage. So let's go to our control panel and set that up. There's the basic and advanced mode. I kind of want the advanced mode just so I can see everything. We can theme, we can do a lot of other stuff as far as what this is capable of doing. Basic modes, just for like your basic user that's not real familiar with a lot of things, they don't want to complicate it. So I really like this for someone that's not really techie, but if you are, definitely just leave it in advanced mode and then you can get all these extra settings. So first thing I want to do is add storage manager because I want to be able to create storage for this. So let's go ahead and drop this onto the desktop. Another thing, we're going to do iSCSI for some more advanced stuff later on. So I'll go ahead and put that on here as well. And let's go ahead and create our storage. So right now we have 4 disks, 1 available slot. If we go to the volume, we have no volumes on the system. Storage pools, there's no pools. And then we can see all our hard drives. These are 4 terabyte drives. All of them are initialized, ready to go. All of them are in the green. So we can go ahead and do that. Another thing to note, there is an SD solid state cache on here. On the bottom part of this drive, if you lift it up, there's a little hatch. You can put NVMe drives in here and do SSD caching, which is extremely powerful. I may add this at a later date. So with that, let's go ahead and create our volume. Now we're going to do a custom because there's certain things I like to do and have control over the RAID. So that's why I really enjoy just doing a custom. But if you're not sure, just choose the quick. This is going to give you the best of both worlds. But let's go ahead and just do advanced here. Can do better performance or higher flexibility. So we can do what type of RAID we want. I personally like RAID 10. This gives you the maximum amount of performance, and you also get a huge amount of redundancy. You can have up to 2 hard drive failures and still not miss a beat, which is pretty amazing. So that's why I really enjoy RAID 10. But choose what's best for you. Obviously, RAID 10 eats up a lot of disk space, where if I did just, let's say, a RAID 5, I could actually get probably about 12 terabytes out of the 4 terabyte disks. However, if I do a RAID 10, I will only get 8 terabytes of storage. So I like the RAID 10. Like I said, redundancy, I'm very iffy about using anything other than RAID 10, just because I like to have multiple cases of redundancy should I have hardware failure. In that, you could have one drive fail and not see almost any hit to your performance, which is pretty amazing. Where with RAID 5, you have one drive fail, you see a big performance hit. And when you put the next drive in to rebuild the RAID array, you do see a lot of performance degradation from that. So that's why I don't like to do that. That's why I really favor RAID 10. So this just warns you about erasing the drives. Perform disk check, recommended for hard disks on which DSM was not installed before. Technically, I could do this, but I know these disks are brand new, so I'm not going to do that. And then we'll go ahead and hit next. So we can choose BetterFS or ext4. And, this is kind of, you go back and forth. BetterFS has seen so many advancements lately. I would say just go with BetterFS instead of ext4. But this is the older system, so just choose what you're comfortable with. However, we're going to go BetterFS. Also, BetterFS has better snapshotting, which we will be using, so that's another reason to go with BetterFS. And there we go. That took about 30 seconds to a minute to finalize the storage pool. So with this, the volume's all set up. It already created the storage pool, so we're ready to rock on this thing. Let's go ahead and create a share. We're going to do a sample SMB share because you have compatibility with Windows, you have Linux, Mac, whatever it might be. Everybody can pretty much access SMB, and that's what we're going to set up. We're going to do about a 5 terabyte share. We're going to put all our Plex media and everything else on this, and then that leaves us some space to where we can go ahead and do iSCSI. So here we go. We open up File Station. It says, hey, there's no shared folder available. We want to create one, so it's going to go ahead and launch the shared folder creation for us, which we want to do. We're going to name this one Main Pool. You can hide this. You can enable a recycle bin, and then that way you can actually get to it. So I'm going to not restrict access to administrators, because if I delete something, I want to go right back. I don't want to have to log in or do anything like that. I just want everyone to have access to it, because this is just a very small network, which is completely fine. So we can encrypt it if we like. I'm not going to. Put quotas, those types of things. We're going to leave all that unchecked, and then we're just going to hit apply. Guest, we want read-write access for them, and that's about it. So this will give this share open to everybody with no issue whatsoever. So with this, main pool has been established, and if we go ahead and pull up our file browser, let's see what we can find if we go to it. So what we'll do is do SMB, and then we're just going to put our IP address for this. Now, before we get any hard links or anything set up, we will change these IPs to static, just because that's always a good idea, especially when accessing this and doing port forwarding and those types of things. You don't want that IP ever changing. But for now, let's just test this out. We're just going to do 171, and we're just going to hit OK here and see if we can't log in as guest. Right now, it's not allowing me. We'll go ahead. And there's our main pool. So we have everything right here. We're able to hit it from our main system here. This is really good. So before we continue, let's go back into our control panel and start setting up our network access. This is probably the biggest thing to do on here. We're going to first manually configure the actual configuration of the DNS server, and then we also need to set our static IP. So first off, I want to point it directly at my primary DNS server, and then for a secondary, we'll just go ahead and put Cloudflare's DNS into here. So with that, that should be good. We'll go ahead and apply that, and then we'll go to the network interface, and then we can actually manage this. So I'm actually going to create a bond. So what I could do is just set one of these as an IP, but I think with a bonded network, we can do some really cool stuff. One, we can just do adaptive load balancing, which is great. This does not require any network switch. Everyone can do this. And what it'll do is if, let's say, one of the networks is getting a little overload, it'll go over to the next NIC card and you start using it. It's a balanced portion. So, and then you got link aggregation, and that's pretty much all these other ones. With this, if you're not familiar with link aggregation or LACP in many net switches, you actually need to actually set this up. And it's a very complex subject as far as link aggregation goes. So if you're unsure what LACP is or link aggregation, and you don't have specialized switches that support it, definitely don't use this option or this option. Only stick with load balancing or active standby. Since this has been plugged into the exact same switch, I'm going to just do active load balancing because the chances of actually needing active standby, that would tell me that one of the NIC cards actually on board of the Synology would fail, which is very unlikely. Probably the more likely scenario is your switch failing. And if your switch fails and you're using load balance, you're going to have a lot of drop packets and other things. So if it was just more of a concern and you didn't need so much the performance boost, you would probably go active standby. And then you'd have two separate switches. One of the NIC cards would be plugged into it, and then the other one would be plugged into your second switch. So that would give you some of that redundancy doing active standby. However, I only have one switch and load balancing makes the most sense for my environment. So with this, we'll select both interfaces. We're going to do a manual configuration here, and this is where we need to set our IP. Now I'm going to go ahead and ping what I want for the address. I'd like 69.5, sounds good to me. I don't think I have anything at this address, but I'm just going to go ahead, ping it. It doesn't look like there's anything there. So I think we can go ahead, change this to 69.5. We have our DNS, our gateway all set, and we'll leave everything else unchecked down here, and we'll hit apply. It says, hey, services on each bonded interface, for example, firewall rule and DHCP servers will be disabled once the bond is created. Do you want to proceed? Yes. So why this actually applies the network settings, we will probably get disconnected from our website because as you see up here, 171 is about to not be a valid address. So once this actually goes ahead, times out, we'll go ahead and go 192.168.69.5. Okay, look at that. It didn't have to do anything there. It actually went ahead, refreshed the page, and pushed me to .5. So that's pretty impressive. I remember back, several years ago, that was not the case, but Synology is constantly improving their software, which that's amazing that we didn't have to do anything. It just went ahead and forwarded that. So we're good. We are on this one. Let's go ahead from our computer, ping this new address just to make sure. I'm sure it's fine. But there we are. So we have a bonded network at 69.5, which is great. We could do port forwarding through our router right now so we can get access from the outside world. I'm probably not going to do that. I think from here, we need to look at, one, upgrading the system as well. Let's see what an update and restore would look like. Now, when we first logged in, probably the first thing I should have done is come into here and updated. Let's go ahead and download this as well. Please do not shut down or power off the system during the update. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay, so the update has been applied, and it says it'll take a full 10 minutes to do those updates and reboot. So I'm curious to see if this is true or not. I'll be listening in the background to see if the startup ding happens before the 10 minutes. So the official restart time there from the countdown of 10 minutes actually took about 7.5 minutes, right in that range. So good to know. I would definitely recommend, especially if you're running virtual machines off your box, don't enable smart update, and also make sure it doesn't automatically do that, because there's no way for the Synology box to go through its iSCSI target, shut down that virtual machine properly, and then do its updates. You need to manually do that, so that's why we would not enable that. So we'll go ahead and double check to make sure that did not get enabled. So if we go to update settings from our control panel here, under update and restore, you can see you can notify whether or not to do it, and it's not ticked to automatically install. So very good. I would just say I would want it done on probably a Saturday. So with that, Saturday at 4 a.m., they can notify me then. Typically, I would log in on like a Sunday and do an update over a weekend. It's just the system admin in me coming out. I only like to update during the weekends. All right, so with that, we're pretty much done on the update. We're on the latest revision, which is great. You can read the release notes here, but we're good. We can also change our theme as well, and do that if there's any specific theme. I would probably go ahead and switch this to the dark theme, because dark themes are awesome. We have our manual updates set so it won't kick us out, and everything else is set up. We have our storage manager going, we have that. So that was it for the basic review of the Synology box. We're going to jump into this. I'm going to do some other reviews probably coming up next week and be utilizing this box again, just because it's going to be almost a center point for my entire network here, because it's brand new hardware, it works really fast, and I can finally get everything off of my janky setup I have on my FreeNAS, which it was fine, and it was a good free solution that recycled some old hardware. But now that I got the new hotness here, I'm going to be using that as my primary, switching over all of my VMs to be powered off of this, because performance-wise, oh man, I'm talking boot times a lot faster. Everything about this is just a big upgrade for everything I do here at the house. And also video production, most people don't know, here in the studio, I record everything, and then I go inside and then pull all those videos over, and now that it's stored on this box, I'm able to do that even faster. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. What's your experiences with Synology? I absolutely love them, but what do you think? And a big shout out to my patrons. Without you, I couldn't make videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one.